Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the GSMC Football Podcast. I am your host, as always, Jeff Malinoff, and with me is Mark Souza. Happy New Year, everyone. We're officially in 2019, our first show of 2019.
Now, we don't have to hear people say, I'll see you next year.
I said that as a joke to my dad before I went to bed.
See you next year, Dad.
I didn't say it like that.
I bet you did.
I just went, like an idiot.
You went, hey, Dad, good night, and guess what? I'll see you next year.
I just said I'll see you in 2019.
I'll see you in the future.
That's the fact of every day, though.
Yeah.
I always will see him in the future. Anyways.
You would be one of those guys, huh? You probably spent the whole day on New Year's Eve. Like, you probably just, went to the store, you went to Safeway, and you're like, see you next year.
I just went to my friend's place, and we played games.
And then you went to the bathroom, and you're like, see you next year.
Well, no.
Then his mom came over, and you're like,
no, I had to go home at 11. I had to get up early in the morning, and
then you didn't.
Long story. Anyways.
You did, and then you did it.
Not going to get into it. Anyways, we're going to be talking about the Steelers and Antonio Brown's controversy. I almost said Adrian Brown for some reason. And Antonio Brown's controversy with his teammate Big Ben, as well as some other news corps about that. Then we go into the college bowl games, and we're going to talk about the head coaching vacancies and which ones may be more attractive than the others. So we'll get into that later. But first, we must talk about Antonio Brown. He had an altercation with Ben Roethlisberger before the Week 17 matchup, which they won, but they still benched him or suspended him. However, I don't remember how they put it. I think they said suspended him due to the argument he had with Ben Roethlisberger, and now he has requested to be traded.
Supposedly.
So, yeah, but if you see him on Twitter talking to other players on Twitter from other teams, he's kind of liking the idea of playing.
They're like on a break, it's like a relationship.
So
Antonio
Ross
Brown
and Rachel,
and the
they're on a
Steelers
break.
are like, you know what? Maybe we just need to take some time apart. Like, that's what they're doing right now, it seems like.
They're going to break up.
They might, or they might be like, you know what? I missed you, and I'm willing to work.
Dude, this relationship is like, how are they still together? Why are they still together? They always argue. They always bicker. They have a couple hot and heavy moments, but that's it.
Hot and heavy.
They're only in it for the sex. That's basically what this is.
Yeah, but you know what? When problems come up, like, I don't know, missing the playoffs, then things come out in the open, and I think that's what we're seeing now with the Steelers. We're seeing, Le'Veon Bell didn't play this year. We're seeing Ben a little prickly with the media. We're seeing Antonio Brown flirting with other teams.
Okay.
So.
Fair.
It's hard to figure this out, but the Steelers, man, what a headache that franchise is becoming, right? You got Big Ben, who by all accounts is hard to deal with, hard to work with. Mike Tomlin, a lot of people are questioning if he's able to, manage this ship further.
I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it. He's a pushover. He lets the team kind of walk all over him. He lets the play. He tries too hard to be a player's coach, and it's affecting the team.
The Steelers, I feel like, are at a crossroads right now. They have their star running back just held out. It looks like he'll be leaving. They have their star wide receiver
probably
might be leaving.
Yeah.
And then you have your quarterback who's aging and talked openly about retirement last year.
And then got insulted when you drafted a quarterback after hearing that news, which doesn't make any sense.
And then, a franchise like the Steelers, they don't fire coaches, but we're hearing from
every time
fans.
The coach is retired.
This is one of those times where fans are very loud about Mike Tomlin. A lot of people, a lot of Steelers fans have been disgruntled by his leadership the last couple of years. And again, in a year where you don't make the playoffs and you're the Steelers, all of that is going to rise to the top, right? Everybody's talking about that. The voices are getting louder and louder because you weren't successful this year. And for a proud franchise like the Steelers, they make the playoffs pretty much every single year.
Well, except for 2018.
Right. They've only missed the playoffs, I think, 5 times in the last 30 years.
That sounds
pretty
accurate.
Crazy.
Yeah. But this is this is a year that they might have to accept the fact that they need to rebuild. They need to start from scratch.
And that's what you wonder. You drafted a quarterback last year in 3rd round, Mason Rudolph. He looks like he's got a bright future. I actually really like Mason Rudolph. I will be honest with you. I thought he was one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the draft last year. I thought it was a steal for them to get him.
Big Ben thought otherwise.
Big Ben, I actually think Big Ben knew it. You know why? Because he was threatened.
He was threatened.
Yeah, it's like, how Tom Brady was threatened by Jimmy Garoppolo?
Mm-hmm.
Brady's had other backups that he wasn't threatened by, but he was threatened by one guy. And I kind of feel like that's how Ben is with Rudolph. And now he's
the star for another team, and Bill Belichick is a little PO'd.
Mm-hmm. So, the Steelers are at a crossroads, man. I don't think they will, because the Steelers are a proud franchise. They don't use the word rebuild. But you can reset the franchise right now. You could reset the franchise right now.
Isn't that the same thing?
You could say, you know what, we're going in a different direction, and
hit the reset button. It's time to bring in some younger
talent. And you'd still have a good start with Juju and Connor. Let's say that they just took.
They have a bunch of talented young players.
Yeah, they need
a talented.
They
young
got Watt on a linebacker on the other side of the ball. They have good players.
They have pieces. They just need to build around those pieces, and they can't build it around Ben Roethlisberger. He's too old. He's too out of shape. He's not an ideal quarterback anymore. He's going to be gone soon. You got to find your quarterback. If it's your quarterback you drafted or a quarterback you pick up at free agency or anything else, you got to build around that guy.
Absolutely. So, for the Steelers and Antonio Brown, the speculation is he might get traded. I think it was Ian Rappaport reported that. Maybe it wasn't him, but there's been some conflicting stories about that. Some people say he never actually requested for a trade, that was a premature thing to say.
And his Twitter speaks to me otherwise, though.
Right. I mean, it's obvious that he's unhappy, but formally asking for a trade is something different, though, right? That's a little bit
would you
further.
be surprised if he asked for that? I wouldn't surprise me.
I would not be surprised. I could, it'd be something that we would see coming. The issue here is that the Steelers can't really trade him before June. They have to wait until June 1st, or else they will owe $22 million. I mean,
it would be stupid if they do.
Yeah, I mean, you can say you're going to move on from him and act accordingly, but you're not going to eat $22 million to trade your possibly your best player. I
think it's going to go like this: they're going to have a verbal agreement with a certain team, and by June 2nd, they'll make the trade. If this will come down to a trade, it will be a verbal agreement and will be settled after June 1st. That's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, that could happen.
Because you could totally say, yeah, we're going to trade him to you. Just give us some time. They're like, yeah, no problem. Just give us Antonio Brown.
We'll see what happens, though. It feels like it's a lot of posturing, though.
All right, let me ask, what do you give for Antonio Brown?
I would not give up more than a second-round pick.
Just 1 second-round pick?
Maybe 2, but I wouldn't give up more than
I'll say
I wouldn't give
seconds.
up a first-round pick is where I'm going with this.
I'll say 2 seconds and then a third.
The issue with Antonio Brown is not that he's not good. He's great, but he's also 30 years old. You're not getting when the Cowboys traded a first-round pick for Amari Cooper is not as good as Brown, but he was also 24 years old. So, you're getting him before he even hits his prime. Yeah, even before, you could say. Whereas Antonio Brown, arguably his best days are behind him. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying he's not in his prime, because you could argue that he's still in his prime. He's
still got a lot of solid years
Antonio
left.
Brown could have the best season of his career next year, and I don't think either one of us would be surprised.
Oh, not at all.
So, but he is 30 years old. He is a smaller player. You do wonder. And when you're negotiating a trade, you have to talk about that, right? Like if you're, let's say the 49ers, because we've heard that
George Kittle has really instigated that.
That's kind of the hot rumor right now, right? Like Antonio Brown of the 49ers, right? Like, a team that needs a wide receiver.
I've seen a lot on Instagram of him being photoshopped into 49er jerseys.
So let's use them as the example. Let's use the 49ers, right? So 49ers approach the Steelers. Hey, what would you want for Antonio Brown? Steelers could come back and say, well, we want at least a first-round pick. Well, the Niners will come back and say, well, I mean, he's got some miles on him. I'm not getting a brand-new Antonio Brown. I'm getting a 30-year-old Antonio Brown.
That's still a pretty darn good Antonio Brown.
Right. But you're bargaining, right? Like you're a trade is a negotiation. So you're saying, hey, look, I'll give you a second-round pick. I'll even throw in a fourth-round pick for 2020 because that's what it would be. And then the Steelers can say yes or no or whatever. Might be
interesting. There's also there's a couple photoshops of him going to Cleveland. They wouldn't trade him in the same division, though. No way.
Yeah, but regardless of the team, it doesn't have to be the 49ers. But I think
I think
the value for Antonio Brown is a second-round pick, probably too. But I don't know if I'd say a first-round pick. I really don't. And I know that sounds weird to say because he could be the best player at his position.
Depends on what the team is. If it's a team that's contending, then yes, you can risk a first-round pick. If it's a team that's not contending, then you're not willing to give up a first-round pick. See what I'm getting at? Like if you're thinking we can win this year, then give up that first-round pick because you're thinking it's like 25 to 32, which is not as touted as 1 to 10. Let's face it, 25 to 32 is basically like second round.
I don't think a team picking the top 10 will trade for Antonio Brown for their first round pick for sure, but maybe a late first. Maybe.
Yeah. Depends on who the team is.
I can see the Colts doing it.
Well, the thing is they cannot trade if they cannot do the trade and get a pick this year's draft
It'd be
because
the
they would lose the $22 million.
What if the Colts traded their 2020 first round pick for Antonio Brown?
Who?
The
Raiders?
Colts.
Oh, the Colts?
That would be awesome, in my opinion.
That is a risk, though.
That is a risk, but Antonio Brown, T.Y. Hilton, Andrew Luck, are you kidding me?
Yes.
That might be the best offense in the NFL.
Yes.
Especially if they added a guy like Le'Veon Bell. They could add Le'Veon Bell. And I know that we were going to talk about it, but the Colts have $122 million in cap space. So what if the Colts were like, hey, we'll give you a first-round pick for Antonio Brown, and, oh, yeah, we're just going to go sign Le'Veon Bell on the open market. So the Colts could have Andrew Luck, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, T.Y. Hilton, Eric Ebron.
Yeah.
That's a really good team.
Basically how it works.
And a great young offensive line.
That's a pretty stellar team.
Because they have a really good offensive line. Quentin Nelson was a home run pick for them last year. From Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah. Both the Notre Dame linemen that were drafted in the first round and McGlinchey that got drafted by the 49ers had an excellent season. Notre Dame knows how to pick offensive linemen.
Speaking of diva wide receivers, though, Odell Beckham Jr., I don't know where this smoke came from about him possibly being on the trade market.
Well, they completely...
Right. The Giants have kind of shut that down, which I expected.
Yeah.
I mean... And I think my point was the same as the statement that they made. Why would they sign him to a long-term deal with all that money and then decide to get rid of him when they're in the same position last year as they are this year, right? Like,
yeah,
they had some rebuilding to do. They had Eli Manning at quarterback. What has changed in the last year for the New York Giants? Pretty much nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Pretty much
nothing I can think of.
Nothing major, really.
Yeah, they
changed the coach. They paid Odell. Now they have the same coach, the same quarterback, the same team, basically. So
yeah, I can't think of anything else that can boost that team better.
They shouldn't trade him either because they're going to have Barkley on a rookie deal for 4 more seasons, and they're going to have Odell Beckham Jr. for those 4 seasons. That's a good start. Like, go get a quarterback and worry about other stuff like offensive line.
I will say this. If you're going to build a team around one of the others, I will build it rather around Saquon Barkley than Odell Beckham Jr.
I would agree with that, but
it's a tough decision. Both are great, but
build around both.
But if you had to choose one,
I mean,
would you go with the running back?
Saquon's younger. I know that Odell's not old; he's only like 24, but Saquon's younger, and
I think Barkley has a bigger upside than
When I see Saquon Barkley play, I think of Barry Sanders. So
I also think of like Herschel Walker mixed together.
He's a phenomenal
the
talent.
bruiser of Herschel Walker and the elusiveness of Barry Sanders.
The good thing for the Giants,
for greatness.
The good thing for the Giants is that they don't have to choose. They can just have the next 4 years have both of those guys, rebuild the offensive line, and find your quarterback. That's what you have to do.
Yeah,
you're pretty much set at other positions. Evan Ingram is a good tight end. Sterling Shepard is another good wide receiver that they have. Like they're fine at the skill position. It's all about the quarterback, him, and the offensive line. That's it for the Giants. The Giants' defense is fine. They can win with that defense. They can win with Odell and Saquon. But you cannot win when your quarterback is on the ground every other play. You just can't.
Yeah.
We saw with the Colts. When Andrew Luck, before he got hurt, he was on the ground almost every other play. Now, why are the Colts good? First off, Andrew Luck's back.
He's not decapitated every play.
Yeah, first off, Andrew Luck's back. He's fully recovered from his injuries. But his offensive line is awesome. Mm-hmm. That is a plus for them when it used to be a big weakness for them. So
yeah, definitely. It's one of those things in where offensive line is not the sexiest position, not the most attractive, but it's the most crucial.
Yeah, you have to.
You can't win with no offensive line.
It's more crucial than having great wide receivers for sure. I'd rather have a great
gives you more time to throw, gives
them
more opportunities to get open. It just works.
Yeah, if your quarterback has time to throw the ball,
Fitz magic. No, I'm kidding.
If your quarterback has time to throw the ball and you have 3 to 4 players running routes, only one of them has to get open. But if he has the time to look around and wait, then you don't need necessarily an Odell Beckham or an Antonio Brown. You can do it with a few different guys. Look at the Seahawks, for example. Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett, they're good players, but they're not Odell Beckhams or DeAndre Hopkins type players. They're just decent players,
Yeah.
But Russell Wilson's able to do stuff with them because even though his offensive line has issues, he's able to move around so often that he can kind of wait for things to develop. So anyways, Mike Tomlin, though. Between Mike Tomlin and Big Ben, who do you think lasts longer in Pittsburgh?
I think Tomlin.
Tomlin?
Yeah. Just by like a year or two, though. Not by much. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be Tomlin. Because we just said this. Pittsburgh does not get rid of coaches.
They really don't.
Well, honestly, Mike Tomlin could just beat up a puppy and he'd probably still keep his job.
That's a bad sign, a bad image in my head.
Well, I could see it still happening. We don't know what Mike Tomlin does. We didn't know what Michael Vick did in 2004 or 7 or wherever that was. So
yeah,
allegedly, I'm just joking. He does not actually beat a puppy. I'm just saying he could and probably still keep his job.
I wonder if both are gone in the next year.
Give me 3 years, they'll all be gone.
I think that there's a decent chance that a year from today, that in January 2nd, 2020, ooh, that sounds exotic. 2020, like your vision,
So after 2019, we're just going to go to. We're not saying 2020. We're just going to say 2020. It's going to be 2020, 2021, 2022,
2021. Yeah, it's too.
This is the last
year.
Too
mouthy to say 2020.
Yeah. This is going to be the last year of 2000 and insert
I still say 2019. I mean, but I know people say 2019.
Well, technically, it's 2019 is the term.
Yeah.
But 2019 is just how everyone says it, and they're never going to. No one's going to say 2020 as often as they're going to say 2020.
Oh yeah, 2020 rolls off the tongue.
Yeah,
2020, not 2020. Yeah, no,
that's
too
just
much.
How it works.
I think that there's a decent chance though that both these guys, a year from today, could be not with the Steelers any longer. I really do. But if that was the case, they might have some free time. What do you do in your free time? You can listen to audiobooks. Audiobooks inspire us, motivate us, and bring us closer as people. There's no better place to do that than with Audible. Audible has the largest selection of audiobooks on the planet. And now, Audible members get more than ever before. Each month, 3 titles of your choice. 1 audiobook, 2 Audible originals, and fitness programs that you can't get anywhere else. There's never been a better time to experience Audible. Try it free for 30 days by visiting audible.com/GSMC book. Or you can just get your cell phone out and text the code GSMC book to the number 500 500. Do it today.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington Target.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. We just talked about the I did it again. AB situation in Pittsburgh, but
why do you want to call him Adrian Brown?
It's mainly I'm saying Adrian Peterson because that's just why. But thanks to I apologize if I butchered his name, but Aditi Kinkawala. You try to pronounce that?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay, but she has interviewed Mike Tomlin, or has gotten quotes from Mike Tomlin. He says everything he said last week in response to Antonio Brown was, quote, accurate. Says Antonio Brown was a little sore Wednesday, so he gave him a day off, as he does with many veterans. That was not a big deal for us. Said Thursday he was still sore, and so Friday he sent AB to get an MRI. So he didn't say anything about an argument with Ben Roethlisberger. Does that concern you? Or is he covering something up, you think?
I don't know. I'm not sure. What do you think?
It's, but I don't know. I would say, like, why didn't he talk about if Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown did get into a scuffle? Why not just be open about it? So there's something hidden. There's something between the lines. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like there's something hidden. I think, at least.
Maybe. We'll see. I think the next month or two is going to be super interesting for the Steelers because they have some big decisions to make. Mm-hmm. They really do. Yeah. They could decide to bring Le'Veon Bell back. They could decide to cut bait with Antonio Brown. They could decide to move on from Big Ben. They could decide to fire a head coach that they never do. So we'll see.
Yeah,
anyways,
absolutely.
Now, how about we talk about some college football, man? New Year's Day. That's the day for college. That's college football's day, right?
Yeah. That New Year's Day is college football day. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, what were the games? Well, let's go into it. What was the first game? We had the Citrus Bowl between Kentucky and Penn State.
We did.
And Penn State, they were at their red zone, and it was like one of the final. It was like, I would say 4 minutes left in the game. Instead of going for it for a touchdown, they're down by 6, which would put them up by 1. They like to go for the field goal.
That's usually a mistake.
They kick it off to Kentucky, who holds on.
Never got the ball back.
Never got the ball back. So my question is that way too conservative for a coach?
Yes.
I completely agree. It was way too conservative. 4 minutes left.
Should have went for it.
The running back has had a great game, been running over your guys all game, had over 140 yards rushing. What do you think is going to change in the next 4 minutes? Nothing. Nothing changed. The guy ran over guys again and again and again and got 3 first downs.
So it was 3rd and 7 at the Kentucky 14 for Penn State, and they threw an incomplete pass. So it was 4th and 7 at the 14, and they kicked a 32-yard field goal. Definitely have gone for it. I would have gone for it. 4th and 7. It's college football, man. Like, you can get 7 yards. Yeah, you wish it was 1 or 2.
That's either not trusting your offense or relying way too much on your defense.
See, the thing is, too, is that you're at their 14-yard line. So even if you turn the ball over on downs, you can stop them right there and get the ball back around your own 40 or so, and have good position with 3 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
And in college football, the clock stops every time you get a first down under 2 minutes. So not having timeouts or having one timeout is really not that bad in college football because you could just rack up the first downs, stops the clock, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought that's bad. I think that's bad coaching. I think that you can't rely that you're going to get the ball back. You're Penn State. You got a decent defense, but you don't have a historically good defense. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's not like your defense is like the greatest defense of all time. Yeah, you know?
Under 5 minutes, you're down by a touchdown. I think you go for it. Unless it's like 4th and 15. If it was like 4th and long, like very long, I'd say kick the field goal. But
yeah,
it wasn't. It was 4th and 7. So, but anyways, I think the story of this game is that Josh Allen, defensive end, linebacker for Kentucky, is just an absolute monster. He had 3 sacks and kind of showed everybody why he believes he's the number 1 player in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he just dominated. Is there no better word to describe?
He just wrecks games. Like, you can't run the ball to his side. You can't block him with one guy. He showed his extremely quick burst off the edge. He also showed that he can get around a blocker who's in position. We saw it. He did one of his sacks. He ran a stunt where he came from the outside and then rushed through the guard. The guard was in good position. He just gave him a little swim move. Just went right around him. Just a little smack across the shoulder pad, cut the arm over the top, got to
effortlessly.
Effortlessly. And he did it at speed too. So
he's got the speed of a running back, and he's got the power of a lineman.
He's explosive.
The man is a monster.
I know we've talked about it, but I still think he's the best. He's probably the best player in the draft. I at least think he's the best defensive lineman, like front 7 player.
I believe that he was an IVF baby. He was born to be the perfect specimen. Yes.
Well, he reminds me a lot of Khalil Mack, so I wonder if they're related somehow.
They had DNA of Khalil Mack and morphed it into someone else's DNA and made him into like a tube.
Yeah, maybe, because when I watch him, that's the NFL player that I think of. And I'm like, ooh.
Or he's an android, and he's a human.
I think
android.
every team that's picking the top 10 watched yesterday. And we're like, ooh, that would be fun to see on our team.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
I think since everyone's saying Nick Bosa, I think Cardinals are going to take him, and the Niners will take Josh Allen, and I think Allen will have a better year.
I could see Josh Allen being the 49ers pick. I could also see him fall into a team. I don't know, like that.
Well, the last draft projections I've seen, a lot of people are saying Josh Allen will go 2nd overall. Yeah. But again, you're right. Anything can happen.
This draft seems very wide open.
No one said
at this
Baker
point.
Mayfield would be number 1 overall last season.
Until like the last week of the draft, to be honest.
It was like the last 5 minutes before the draft started. It was like, oh, apparently Baker Mayfield might get first pick.
It was like a rumor like a few days before the draft, like the Browns might take Mayfield. And then it was like the day the draft happened, it was like the Browns are going to take Mayfield. Like the Browns are actually taking him. It's not a rumor anymore.
It turns out that they were kind of right.
I agree. I think he was the most impressive player.
Ian Rappaport just reported something I need to talk about real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
The Bengals are expected to interview assistant Hugh Jackson for the Fagan head coaching job.
Yep, they're interviewing Hugh Jackson and Vance Joseph, who are both former coordinators for the Bengals.
Come on.
Just do it. Please hire Hugh. We can talk a whole show about it.
Oh my.
It would be the easiest show ever.
We could have a Hugh Jackson podcast.
We could pull up the best stats.
Oh, it would be so much fun.
We could talk about how Hugh's teams are so much better when he leaves.
Okay, can we say this? If he does sign a contract to be the head coach of the Bengals, we're doing a whole podcast, next football podcast, all about Hugh Jackson.
When he left the Browns, he took all the losses and took him to the Bengals.
That's exactly what he did. Did they win a game with him?
I think they won one. They beat the Raiders. They beat the Raiders.
Oh, that's like beating down a 3rd grader and you're in the 6th grade.
They almost beat the Chargers. They played the Chargers pretty tough, but I don't think they won more than 1 game. Maybe 2 when Hugh joined. 2 is the most, though. I can assure.
But they didn't beat the Browns, that's for sure.
No, they did not.
And he tried to give. Remember, he tried to give Mayfield
a
hug
twice, right? Didn't they lose to him both times?
And Mayfield tried to hug Mayfield, and Mayfield was having none of it. Oh, it was great.
So what
I have a huge smile on my face
what
right
other
now.
bowl games happened yesterday? We talked about the
Fiesta. Want to have a Fiesta? Arriba!
It used to be the Tostitos, but now it's the PlayStation, and it doesn't sound
Shouldn't
right.
Xbox counter with their own bowl game?
PlayStation Fiesta Bowl, I am a fan of PlayStation, and I'm a fan of Fiestas, but it sounds better as the Tostitos because a Fiesta needs tortilla chips, right?
I agree.
What's a Fiesta without tortilla chips?
And also, we grew up on the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. It's been Tostitos for a long time, and then it went to Vizio for one season. Then it went to
yeah, it was. I still thought it was Vizio until yesterday. To be honest with you, that was me being dumb, but you know. But it was a decent game. LSU.
Oh, you are dumb. I'm kidding.
LSU won.
Yes.
LSU played with many starters out. Players who didn't want to play, preserving themselves.
Which is honestly in smart situations because some of these games really don't matter.
I have no problem.
It matters to the college, sure, but to them, no.
I have no problem with it whatsoever. But it kind of puts down the argument that UCF should have been in the playoff because they got handled by an LSU team. Yeah, the score looks okay. Like they lost by 8, but they were trailing for pretty much by halftime on. It wasn't much of a game. I know they kind of made it interesting, scoring late, but I think at least college football, like the bowl committee the voters can say, hey, we didn't miss. Like, because if UCF if they would have put a whooping on LSU, if they would have came out and really, made a statement, then maybe the committee and the voters start wondering, man, did we make a mistake? But I think they can feel that they didn't after a performance like this.
Yeah, and UCF kind of got a little bit of a, rough Twitter attack on them because of what they said. Mm-hmm. Did you also see the LSU player holding up a whiteboard that said, national champions, LOL?
Yes, that was fantastic.
I think he planned that.
Good troll job, in my opinion. By the way, whiteboards are very underrated in the whole tools for trolling. Whiteboards are fantastic troll tools. What do you think?
Because they can easily be erased and write new words?
You could just write stupid stuff and hold it up, just like the guy did with the LSU guy.
Well, I think that was for, play calling and stuff. He just, give me the board. I got to write something.
I know.
It wasn't like he planned it.
Dude, that was, well, then if it was a situational comedy, I applaud him too. Either way, he wins in my book, Either he planned it out and that was a good idea.
There's a huge picture of him on, Twitter and everything, so yes, he wins.
Either way, either he planned it out, good planning, or B, great situational awareness, my friend. You saw a whiteboard and you're like, I can use this right now. I like it.
I cannot pass this opportunity to write on a whiteboard.
One thing I was disappointed in seeing, though, we didn't get to see Greedy Williams play, and he is another player who is likely a top 10 pick. Some people say he's the best corner. Some people even say
he is the best corner.
Some people say he's the best player in this draft. I've seen people say that he is the best player in the draft. He's a 6'3" corner.
By position, I would agree.
Best corner.
Yeah, but it's really hard to say because there's so much talent.
It's hard to say because then you start going into what do you value more, right? Pass rusher,
That's
cornerback,
exactly my point
quarterback, or running back, things like that.
You can't say, oh, he's the best player because there's so many different positions. There's 11 positions.
I will say, though, 6'3" corner that can run like a 4.3, 4.4. That's like Patrick Peterson.
I think it really depends on his combine.
That's like Patrick Peterson. Mm-hmm. That's like his comp, in my opinion.
I think he needs to have a good combine.
I don't think he'll run.
Oh, he has to. He has to.
You got to think, though, a lot of these guys that are projected top 10 picks are not going to run in the combine. They're not going to do the combine because they're already solidified. I don't think Greedy Williams goes to the combine, if I'm being completely honest.
I have a feeling
he'll have a pro day. We know he'll have a pro day. He'll probably jump. He'll probably do a broad jump, a long jump, a cone drill. But I don't know if he runs.
So he'll jump around?
Yeah, like the song. So, anyways, we have 2 more bowl games.
Yes, Rose Bowl.
The Urban Meyer farewell game.
Yes, Ohio State was up 28-3 going into the fourth quarter. And then they scored 20 unanswered. Washington did. Which I was like, are they about to come back? And then they had the worst onside kick I believe I've ever seen. Like, an onside kick that actually counted. Like, that was like, not the ones that they barely hit it and it goes like it's half a yard. Like, ones that actually went somewhere. Like, were legal to grab. Because he kicked it right to the guy. It was, yeah.
So I think it was pretty obvious that Ohio State, they were a heavy favorite. I was a little bit stunned that they didn't win by more. I know that Washington really got like a meaningless touchdown.
We thought this would be a slaughter.
I know Washington got a meaningless touchdown, so it was basically like a 2-score game over a 10-point lead. But I really thought that Ohio State was going to win this game by like 21 plus. I really did. I thought
they were winning it by 21 plus.
Yeah, but I thought they would have won this game like
maybe
41 to 10.
They kind of got lazy
like a
at
41 to 10 or 41 to 13 type of final score. So Urban Meyer's done, at least for now.
Yeah, which he's probably going to be.
We saw him pass the whistle to Ryan Day.
That was pretty cool.
I thought that was interesting, but kind of gross.
It's not
symbolic. I get
it's
it.
Symbolic.
But do you think he actually uses that? Like he just like?
Oh, he's washing that thing.
All right, good.
If he put it directly in his mouth, that's the weirdest thing he could have done. I guarantee you, he put it around his neck as a sign of respect, and then he went into the locker room and was like, I need like 10 gallons of soap to wash this off.
So Washington finishes with 4 losses this year. The Pac-12, not a good season for the Pac-12.
Yes, but you want to hear something crazy? My dad said this. Next season, he's calling it Oregon-Florida National Championship game.
Yeah, because Herbert's coming back. I could see it.
But Florida? I thought it was a little bit. I was like, I understand they're going to be good.
Florida's on the rise.
I understand what he was trying to say, but I was like, national championship game. That's a tad much. That's a push for me. That's too.
Florida,
pushy.
Texas. I could see those teams getting. I could see
Texas.
You know,
Texas could be ranked high after this win going into next season.
Speaking of which, we'll head right into that. The Sugar Bowl.
Texas handled. It was a 7-point game, but it was not a 7-point game. Watching it, this was all Texas.
Texas really made a statement, don't you think? Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people thought that they were going to lose. A lot of people thought that Georgia was going to show them why they should have been in the playoff.
Yeah, this shouldn't have been a competition is basically what they were saying.
And you know what? It's kind of funny that the Georgia players were talking all that trash, and then they go out and they get just destroyed. I mean, I get it's a touchdown.
What's that word? Karma?
Yeah. I get the final score is only a touchdown, but Texas dominated Georgia. It wasn't like they needed trick plays to win or they got super lucky. No, they dominated Georgia on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. That Georgia offense could not get going. And let's be honest, Jeff, Texas, they can get scored on.
Yeah, they can.
Oklahoma scored on them many times. Many times.
They were in the end zone more they were on the field. That was
And I think if you're someone who thinks that Georgia should have been in the playoffs, I think it's time to kind of Homer Simpson back into the bushes right now, because that was not a good run.
How many there were about, like, not just this game, but about, like, Notre Dame and then about Georgia and UCF and all this stuff. Like, my Lord, there were tons of them. And then there was one where he was wearing each one and went back in and then came back out, and then he finally just came back out wearing an Alabama shirt, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, so Georgia, I know we kind of talked about it earlier, but I kind of feel like their games against Alabama are a little overrated because they play them so tough. But, like, you got to beat LSU. If they would have beat LSU, they would have been in the playoff. They could have played Alabama maybe again or Clemson, one of those teams, but now they don't really have. You can't say anything. If you're a Georgia fan, you can't say, "Oh, we should have been in the playoff." I'm sorry, you can't. I'm not listening to that anymore. Maybe next year you have a good chance.
You've had it, haven't you?
I'm just. You can't say that anymore, right? They talked all that trash when Notre Dame lost.
Yeah.
And then you go out and you lay an egg like that? Come on, no. How about you handle your business, talk less, do more, and then you win? I was really hoping, though, when I was watching that game, that they were going to run another stupid fake punt. I was like, please run a stupid fake punt. Please run a stupid fake punt. It didn't happen, but...
you were hoping. I didn't expect a rant from this game, though. That was pleasant.
Anyways, we need to go to a break.
Yes, we do. When we come back... Actually, first, before we go to break, I want to ask you something.
No.
What? Oh,
okay, fine. Go ahead.
I was asking the audience.
Okay.
It's about Audible. What it would be like if we all listen more? Listening to audiobooks inspires us, motivates us, even brings us closer. And there's no better place to listen than Audible. Audible has the largest selection of audiobooks on the planet. And now, Audible members get more than ever before. Each month, they get 3 titles of their choice. 1 audiobook, 2 Audible originals and fitness programs they can't get anywhere else. There's never been a better time to experience Audible. Try it free for 30 days by visiting audible.com/GSMCbook or by texting the code GSMCbook to 500500. Remember, if you want to get this 30-day trial for Audible, go to audible.com/GSMCbook or just text the code GSMCbook to 500500.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington Target Zero.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Football Podcast. We just finished talking about the bowl games that happened on New Year's Day. Now, we're moving on to the NFL head coaching positions and which ones are the best, which ones are the worst, which ones are the stuff in between, like an Oreo cookie. So, let's get right into it.
Mm-hmm.
What is your ideal place to be a head coach? And who?
Of all the vacancies?
Yeah.
So we have...
You said Green Bay, yes,
So
2 days ago.
These are the 8 so far that have...
Yeah, let's do that first, yeah.
These are the 8 teams that are currently looking for head coaches. The New York Jets, the Denver Broncos, Cincinnati Bengals, Green Bay Packers, Cleveland Browns, Arizona Cardinals, Miami Dolphins, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So those are your 8 teams. There might be more firings, but I think it's probably going to stay there. I don't foresee a playoff team getting rid of their coach, although it did happen last year when the Titans moved on from... Mike Mularkey, and they hired Mike Vrabel. But I don't think we'll see another coach get fired. So with that being said, those are the 8. Let's rank them.
Okay.
I know number 1 you have Cleveland.
Yes.
And then is Green Bay your number 2?
Yeah, I would have to say so. Just because of Aaron Rodgers, if he's coachable, if I can work with him. If he doesn't work with me, then this might be a whole... what's the word I'm looking for?
Disaster? Like just tough to deal with? Like
yes, just a pain in the buttocks.
Okay. I can get on board with that. I have Cleveland at number 2. I mean, for me it's tough. I only put Green Bay over Cleveland because... I know what I'm getting with Aaron Rodgers. I know Baker Mayfield was super impressive, and I'm excited about what he can do in the NFL. But again, he was a rookie. It's not impossible to think that he has a bad season next year, has a slump, like a sophomore slump.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Packers, I know that my quarterback is elite. I know that he can win me a Super Bowl today. I don't need to... I don't need to wait 2 years or anything like that.
I see what you're saying.
I can have short-term success and still be good for the next 3 or 4 years with Aaron Rodgers. That's how I view it. So, but Cleveland is right there because of the young pieces that they have. That's not just limited to Baker Mayfield because he's good, yes, but Myles Garrett's really good. They have other young players. Nick Chubb, great rookie season for him at running back. Jarvis Landry, very good player. They have pieces there. David Njoku, the tight end. He showed some flashes. I like what Cleveland is building. But, again, Jeff, there is the concern that it's Cleveland, that they'll find a way to screw it up, right?
Yes.
That's just kind of...
Well, actually, no. I'm going to disagree with that. Because of this team, you can't possibly screw up this young
Oh, God, don't
team.
Say that.
There's almost no way.
That's like a jinx, right? They can't possibly brown this one up, and they do.
I can see them as Super Bowl contenders next season. I really do.
We will see what happens. So I guess it's interesting now because I think we can both agree that after Green Bay and Cleveland, there's kind of a drop off, right, for the next 6 jobs. Mm-hmm. Like, would you say Green Bay and Cleveland stand above the other 6? Okay. So who do you have at your 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Let's go with number 3. What is your most attractive opening right now that's not Green Bay or Cleveland?
That's a tough one. I like the Jets. I can't believe I said that because it's Sam Darnold and you work with a young quarterback. But you could say the same thing for the Cardinals as well. But I think Darnold has more of an upside. But Arizona's defense showed flashes of talent, so that's also a plus. But their offensive line really needs a lot of work, so I would pick up offensive linemen in the first round, to be honest, if I'm them. So
what team?
I'm going to go Jets first, Jets third.
I have Denver number 3.
Okay. They weren't. I wouldn't.
I have Denver number 3 because I like Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. Those are 2 good pass rushers. They struck gold with Philip Lindsay. They'll get Emmanuel Sanders back, maybe, although his injury is concerning. Mm-hmm. I don't know about quarterback with them. Case Keenum. But here's the thing about
Case Keenum's a huge question.
Here's the thing about Case Keenum. I can work with Case Keenum. Like, I can go draft a quarterback
and groom him. Is it because he went that 13-3 years? Is that why you can work with him?
Right.
Or is it because
you can win with Case Keenum? Will he win you a Super Bowl? Probably not. But can he get you in the playoffs? Absolutely. We've already seen it happen.
Okay.
Denver has the ability to have a good defense in the next couple of years because they have a corner like Chris Harris, one of the best in the league, 2 very good edge rushers. If they add another great corner, a couple linebackers, that could be a dominant defense again, quickly. And you can win with Case Keenum. Now, is Case Keenum the long-term future at quarterback? No. But you can draft a quarterback, groom him under Case Keenum for the next 2 years. Remember, Case Keenum signed a 3-year deal. So you can groom him for 2 years and then have that transition take place. So I have Denver 3, but I have the Jets at number 4.
You like the Jets better than Arizona? Okay, that was the question I was going to ask you.
I like the Jets. You said Sam Darnold. He came on strong at the end of the year, but the Jets have some decent players. Like, they're not a terrible football team. Robbie Anderson's a decent wide receiver. Running back, they have Bilal Powell that has had good games. You have a guy like Isaiah Crowell. Like, I think their running back situation's pretty good. They need a star. They need to add another star player or 2 on both sides of the ball. But I think they have a good base. I think that you can do well with them. And if Sam Darnold can take that next step, they can be better sooner rather than later. Also, the AFC East, Jeff, is kind of going through a transition. The Patriots, they're not going to be on top for very much longer. They might have another year or 2 with Brady, but there's going to be a changing of the guard. I'm going to say this
with utmost confidence. This might make... They are so close to being the worst division in the NFL, maybe in history. Just how bad each team looks like going into the future.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the looks of things. It looks bad. Things do not look bright in Boston or Miami or Buffalo or New York.
All right, so who do you have number 4? I had Denver and then the Jets 3, 4. You have the Jets 3. Is Denver your 4? Or
Arizona's my 4.
Arizona.
Yep.
Wow.
Like I said before, I was caught between Arizona and New York as my 3 because there's still a lot of pieces.
You're not concerned about that team, though, huh? Like, that's kind of an aging roster.
Oh, 100% I'm aging. Aging. I am getting old. That's true. But I am 100% worried about that, no question about it. But the fact of the matter is, this team still has some juice left on defensive side. They've had some flashes this season of defense. They had flashes. They still have David Johnson, who can still break out another year or 2. And you have a young quarterback, Josh Rosen, who many people are doubting, of course. But I would like to work with him. I would want to see how he does.
I think it just depends on your view of Rosen. If you think he's going to be good, then I think Arizona's decent. But look at their last few draft picks. They've just struck out, like, big time. Robert Nkemdiche, Hassan Reddick. I see David Johnson, a good running back, and I see a good corner in Patrick Peterson. Other than that, I just don't know with that team. They got a couple decent safeties, I will say. But don't you think there's a lot of work to be done there? And their general manager have not picked good players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have had some bad, but if I'm a confident coach, I would want some choices in my draft choices.
So you have Arizona at 4. I have Miami at number 5.
Miami's my number 5 as well.
Okay, so Miami, it looks like they're going to move on from Tannehill. I would be surprised if they kept him. I think they cut bait with Gase and Tannehill.
It's time to move on from Tannehill.
Although Tannehill's actually been good.
Yeah, but
he just can't stay healthy.
That's how many times?
But you know what? I think like in his last 13 games, he's like 10-3 as a starter. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but I think it's time to move on from him. He's had many years. He's been injured a lot of times, and he's more of a concern than anything else.
But
you can't rely on him to stay healthy.
The thing with Miami is that they are a destination. Like, they're attractive for free agents. It's Miami. Like, it's a cool place to live. It's fun. It's the nightlife. It's, outdoors. It's warm. Everything. So that's a nice spot to go. I do have questions about ownership. I feel like Stephen Ross might not be the best owner in the league. But one thing I do feel about Miami is that I think that they'll go for it. Like, I think Stephen Ross is the kind of owner that, like, if he sees the vision, I think that they'll spend money on free agents. I think they'll go do what they need to do. I think that he wants to win. I just think that he doesn't make the best decisions at times. But I like them at number 5. All right, so who's your number 6?
My number 6, this was a tough one, but it's going to be Denver.
Oh.
Yeah, I have them pretty low. Just because...
Not feeling it with John Elway and the Broncos?
John Elway's he's not a front office guy.
The team has been getting worse and worse over the years, which is
and the only reason they had good season is because of Peyton Manning. Ever since
they had a good team though, like other than Peyton Manning.
Yeah, but I'm not going to give credit to John Elway for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think John Elway's not suited for his job, and I think that the defense without Von Miller is pretty bad, all things considered. And Case Keenum as my quarterback, maybe not. And I love Philip Lindsay, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to need more than that to be tempted to take this job.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of downside, and there's going to be a lot of losing in my first couple of years. If I want to be successful and I have an option to choose, they're not going to be one of the teams.
So my number 6 is Tampa Bay.
Okay.
I don't really know what to make of this team. I just feel like they don't necessarily make the best decisions. I will say, first and foremost, that I am a little biased because I don't think that Jameis Winston was a good draft pick, and I think that he's not a franchise quarterback. I think that he does have potential, and he has tools. Like, he can throw the ball really well sometimes. He can be accurate. I just don't like him, I guess, as like a leader. Like, I don't see him leading my team.
And off the field, he has troubles.
So if I'm a coach coming in, I don't want him as my quarterback. I want to start with one of my guys, a kid that I can trust and I can envision being the franchise quarterback 5 years from now. So that's where I'm at with him.
I agree with you 100%. Tampa Bay,
I mean, yeah, they got Mike Evans. Like, he's good. Like, they have some good players, but...
I just don't want Jameis Winston as my quarterback. I would rather have I almost said Larry for some reason. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
I'm completely honest with you.
I'd rather go with Fitzpatrick and then a rookie than with Winston and Fitzpatrick or Winston's
not reliable off the field to not get in trouble.
So that's my number 6. Who's your number 7?
Who's left? I don't remember the others.
The Bengals.
Is that it?
You haven't picked the Bengals, and I don't know who your number 8 is. My 7 is the Bengals.
My number 8's the Bengals. So whoever the other one is Bengals are my bottom.
Is Miami your 7?
I thought I put them at 5 with you.
Oh yeah, you did. So Denver's at 6. I have Green Bay, Cleveland, Denver, the Jets, Miami, Tampa Bay, and then Cincinnati. And I say Cincinnati because
who's the last one?
I don't know. You had Arizona. Arizona's my last one, FYI.
The Bengals are my last one.
I don't know who you're missing.
Yeah, well, that's weird.
Maybe Denver was your number 7 and we just counted wrong or something.
Maybe, yeah.
Cincinnati, they're a cheap team, cheap organization. They finally got rid of Marvin Lewis, and it sounds like they're going to interview Hugh Jackson and Vance Joseph, who are both disciples of Marvin Lewis. So it's like you're just doing more of the same.
You're not moving on at all.
Yeah.
You're not learning.
They are notoriously cheap in free agency, cheap with their draft picks. Dalton, I don't think is a starting caliber quarterback. I think he's a better backup quarterback.
He's had a good years, but not anymore.
AJ Green is getting older and getting more and more hurt as the years go on. I just don't like where that franchise is. That defense is also terrible.
But you nailed. This is what one of the things you said. Put him at number 8 for me. cheap.
Yeah.
How am I going to help a team build if you're not going to let me spend money?
Like Cincinnati, I feel like
you're not going to get any good free agents.
They should go after a guy like a Mike McCarthy. Even though I'm not the biggest Mike McCarthy fan, that would bring some credibility to your team. But they won't because he'll be too expensive. Like they're only going to scrape the bottom of the barrel and get somebody that they can give. Watch, write this down. The Bengals, whoever the Bengals hire as their coach, will be a bottom 10 paid coach in the NFL.
I would even go on a limb and say he'd be the least paid.
I don't know if he'd be the least, but he's going to be near the bottom instead of near the top. I guarantee it. Like you just know with this franchise.
The Bengals are so petty when it comes to money.
And then, honestly, as bad as they are, I have Arizona 8, and I know that you have them a lot higher, but I don't think Rosen's good. And they don't.
I'm gonna give
their
Rosen.
Young talent is terrible. Like Arizona might have the least amount of young talent in the NFL, and their best player, their franchise player, is going to retire.
I'm just saying, I'm giving Rosen the benefit of the doubt.
Give him the benefit of the doubt. That's fine. But on offense, they have David Johnson and nothing else. On defense, they have a couple decent players. They are terrible on both lines of scrimmage. They need defensive linemen. They need offensive linemen more than anybody. And with their history of draft picks, they don't have some of these teams have young players coming into their own. Like the Browns have some young talent. Like the Jets have some young talent. I just don't see it with Arizona, and that's a big problem for me.
I would rather take Arizona job than Cincinnati.
For me, they're 7-8, so you can flip them, and I'm fine with that.
At least Arizona will let me spend some money.
Yeah.
The Bengals will put me on like $1 million budget.
Anyways, I think that's it for today.
Is that it for the day? All right. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Tune us in. We're going to talk about football tomorrow as well. No, we don't. We have baseball tomorrow. Friday we'll have football.
We'll preview the playoffs and maybe sprinkle in some college football, but definitely playoffs.
Well, Monday we will definitely talk about the national championship game between Alabama and Clemson. That will be a
Friday.
Big chunk
we'll
of our
preview
show.
the 4 wild card weekend games in the NFL.
We're in one of the best times of the year, my friend. When it comes to sports, at least.
Yep. Saturday football.
I'm not a big winter
Sunday
guy.
football.
Are you a winter guy?
The one thing I am sad about, though, no more NFL Red Zone.
I know. I mean, you could go on. You know, if you turn onto that channel, it's just a little dun 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 dun, like little music thing.
Mm-hmm.
So see you next year.
And I like the countdown before it starts, where it's like 2 minutes and it's like 1:57, and then like I'm running around the house like making coffee, and then I'm like trying to get everything situated.
I get up at like 10 a.m. when the game starts, so.
I'm usually up early because I'm watching soccer before, and it leads into it.
Well, speaking of that, soccer is our next podcast, so we will see you there if you tune in. But again, I'm Jeff Malinoff. That's Mark Souza. We will see you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.